Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the third predictions video of Season 11. We've got a lot to discuss in this one as we had our kickoff week for the LEC, and we've got a lot of results to discuss there. 15 in fact in total, as well as the next 10 games coming up from Friday to Saturday in the LEC, as well as the semi-finals predictions for the lock-in tournament. This is going to be an absolute barn burner to predict right now, and without further ado, let us jump straight into these predictions and results for last week. So you're probably wondering why I haven't covered any results for the LCS Lock-in tournament. Well, it's a kickoff tourney, not the actual LCS, so I'm not giving results to it because it's not that necessary, as it's not the official season. As for the LEC, we've got 15 games. I feel I should probably tell you I got 10 out of 15 games correct, so I literally got an entire day's worth of results wrong. And we can go over the games we got wrong. It was Misfits versus Mad on day number 3. Astralis beating Vitality in our Anarchy Analysis match of the week last week. And that's the end of days 3's results that we got wrong. Day 2, we only got Schalke losing to Excel wrong. We predicted a Schalke win there. And day number 1, we saw Misfits beating Fnatic and SK beating Astralis. They were the 5 games that we got predicted wrong, and as such, I'm actually surprised to say that we've done very well. It is 2/3 of the results correct, and honestly, a bit of a shock to me for that to actually be truth. Anyway, without further ado, let us get into our predictions for this upcoming week's games. So, why don't we get this week kicked off not with just a game, but a best of 5, ladies and gentlemen. Over in the LCS's lock-in tournament, we're into the semi-finals between 100 Thieves and C9, as well as Evil Geniuses and Team Liquid as our 4 combatants going into these last rounds of the tournament. And first matchup is 100 Thieves versus C9, and to me, I feel this is gonna be a very close matchup between these two lineups. These two have looked very strong. I would say though, this matchup favors 100 Thieves because this lineup has just been so dominant this year in the very few games they've played. I'm honestly saying this right now, they're my dark horse to win the LCS this year. And I haven't made a predictions video for the LCS this year. I probably won't. I'll probably make a graphic for it because that's the kind of thing I'm into right now, is just making graphics for it because it's easier to do than an entire roster breakdown for every single team. It's going to be hard to do, especially considering the fact that I was using this tournament as basically a taster to each team and to understand how they work. And I'm gonna say right now, 100 Thieves are winning this game, well, series 3-2. This is best of 5s now in the semis. Quarters was best of 3. 3-2 in the semis. I feel it's gonna go all 5 games. It's a close matchup. C9 have made some big changes, but the most interesting part of the matchup for me between these two lineups is the top lane. You have Sunday, the strongest top laner in the LCS, going up against Fudge, who's looked a bit shaky up there and has not really found his footing yet in the LCS. And he's going to be tested very, very heavily against Sunday. As for the bottom half of the map, Sven and Vulcan, a very strong duo, versus one of the other strong duos in the LCS, FBI and Huhi. I'm not sure which bot lane is better here, but they're both extremely strong, and it is going to be an absolute classic of a matchup to watch. Our second matchup in the LCS features Evil Geniuses and Team Liquid. Now, to me, this will be a very close matchup because I feel these two teams are also top contenders for the LCS this year. EG have certainly stepped up in terms of their roster gainage with Impact in that top lane, basically carrying this lineup along with Svenskeren and Jizuke. Whereas the Team Liquid lineup honestly has looked extremely dominant every game they've played. And as such, I've given the win here to Team Liquid in a 3-2 fashion. Yet again, I feel we're getting all 5 games between these two lineups. And honestly, I could see this one being an absolute banger of a series, to say the least. And I'm going to say Evil Geniuses will take game 1 and 3, and then Team Liquid taking the rest. It's going to be that close in my opinion. I just think that these two teams are quite evenly matched, and when it comes to the actual LCS season, it's going to be incredibly interesting to watch these two teams compete. Now that the LEC Super Week is over, we can now focus in on the 10 games we're getting this week, starting with Mad versus XL. Now, to me, this could be a very close matchup with how these two teams shaped up in week number 1 of the LEC. Personally, I've given this one to the Mad Lions. Honestly, I feel it's a very, and I do mean very, close matchup because these two lineups are actually very, very good. Now, as a whole, I'm personally saying Mad are winning this, but XL are, well, one of the teams I would say would get a big win this weekend, because I think they could actually upset Mad here. Second matchup of the day is Schalke versus SK. And to me, this is a good matchup for both lineups. It's a real tester as to who realistically should be making playoffs. And I know this is technically week 2, day 1, but these two lineups are kind of on the same level for me in terms of strength. But one of them has the better record so far this year, and I've kind of got to go with them here, as I'm going with SK to win this game, based on the fact that SK, I feel, are a bit more on the right level. They're working more cohesively than what Schalke are right now. And that is a big issue with Schalke. I don't think they're on the same, communication wavelength, because in the cast I did of the game, which is on my channel, I was seeing a lot of engages going through when players weren't even fully committing alongside it. Now, that was a big issue for Schalke, and as such, I think they may be able to right the ship, but for this, I have predicted a SO4 loss and gone with SK, based on the fact that I just feel that SK are on the right level right now for them. I like matches I can keep very short and sweet. G2 versus Astralis. And why am I saying this is going to be short and sweet? I just got a feeling G2 are just going to find the delete key on their keyboards and just remove Astralis from the game immediately. That's the sort of level G2 are at right now. And I honestly feel they're starting to ramp up to the G2 that could possibly go 18-0 and absolutely decimate the LEC. That's where my mind is with them. The only team that I would really say are going to give them a struggle this year are Fnatic and Rogue when it comes to the regular split. But until them games happen, which is, I do believe, week 4 for the Rogue matchup, and I think maybe next week for the Fnatic one. Only time will tell whether or not G2 will continue to be dominant, and that's why I've kind of got to go with them winning here over Astralis. Next up, we have a match that yet again could go either way, and yes, I do know Rogue are 3-0 and are undefeated in the LEC, but Misfits have been performing very well right now with their roster basically hitting form. They're playing a very dominant style against some teams you wouldn't have thought they'd beat, like Fnatic. And as such, when we come into this prediction, could we see Misfits take Rogue's first game away? And I would say yes, but Rogue to me are almost on the G2 level. And as such, I've got to say Rogue are winning this because Rogue have been smashing it in game, and Sama has been absolutely popping off for the Rogue lineup. And Larson is another player that's just been doing incredibly well, who, like Reckless, was deathless till the last day of the Super Week. And as such, you've gotta give so much credit to Rogue for basically taking from what they were when they first joined the LEC, a 10th place squad, and turning it into this monster lineup. Our last matchup on the Friday is Fnatic versus Vitality. This is a huge matchup for Fnatic, in my opinion, because this is their real tester, as Vitality have put a lot of focus into their bot lane this year, giving Comp a lot of agency to carry for this lineup. As they invest so many of their resources into him, it is kind of going to be a big challenge for the new Fnatic bot laner in Upset to kind of show why he was picked up to Fnatic and silence some of the haters that he's got, because looking at the rest of the matches they've had so far, other than Rogue, this is going to be the hardest match for them, because Comp and Labrov are a demon pairing in that bot lane, and Hilly and Upset are going to have to step up considerably if they're going to contain the beast that Vitality have there. And do I think that they're capable of doing it? Damn straight. Hence why I've gone with Fnatic winning this matchup. I feel that they should, in theory, beat Vitality across the rest of the map. And with that, I feel that they will possibly just transfer that strength that they gain across the map into the bot lane in order to kind of silence the Vitality roster. Our last day of action features XL and Astralis on the Rift here, in a battle that I feel is yet again very closely contested, as I cannot really predict right now the strength of XL, as they managed to scrape a comeback win against SO4. And I'll be honest, my three teams that I cannot really predict right now is Schalke, Astralis, and XL. Them three teams are the ones that I feel are rotating around in terms of the 6th spot in playoffs. And coming into it, I don't know. This matchup, I've decided to go with XL. I feel that they will slightly edge Astralis here, but that is only slightly, as we've got two bot lanes that are actually really interesting to look at. You've got Promiscu and Jeskla, a phenomenal EU Masters team that they were on in Mouse, they played together on. This Patrick and Torre combination XL have has been performing incredibly well, as last year Patrick obviously got All-Pro ADC in the LEC, and as such they're clearly doing something right if he's able to get that. Nonetheless, this matchup is going to be an intriguing one to see whether or not we have an upset or whether XL win, because that's who I've gone with here. Vitality and Rogue now for our matchup here. This one is going to be a good match. It's a real barn burner tester for Vitality, whether or not they can be contesting for a playoff spot, and it's a good place for Rogue to showcase some strength. This is a matchup I feel is very explosive. It's going to be very interesting considering it is Shigenja going up against his former academy team's top team, and he's also going to be going up against a former player he's played with in Trimby. Now, as a whole, this matchup should be funny, should be good. I've gone with Rogue because Rogue are just on another level with G2. As I pretty much said every time I've mentioned Rogue and G2 in this video so far, that they're just a class above the rest right now. So I have to go with them. That's Siren Signals. We're entering the Anarchy Analysis matchup of the week. Misfits versus SK. These two teams coming into this year, I didn't have too much expectation for. And, well, they've certainly shut me down after week 1. Let me tell you that they've been on good form. And I want to kind of showcase that form because this is the matchup I've chosen. As Misfits looking really good, their 8-man or 7-man roster they've got is just performing incredibly well, and SK are just performing well full stop. And they've taken games off big teams in the league, and we need to look at how they're playing. That's why we're looking at this matchup. That's why I've got a lot of expectations for either team to do well here. And without further ado, let's give my actual prediction here. I've gone with Misfits. Yeah, I would have gone with SK, but Misfits here, I've just got a feeling gonna have a bounce back win after losing to Rogue on day 1. I just feel that they're gonna come hitting back harder. They're just gonna smash this SK lineup. Oh, it's time for a short, sweet response. This matchup, SO4, G2 wins. That's how simple I'm gonna keep this. And I'm not even going to stretch this out anymore. And now it's time for probably the LEC's match of the week. Fnatic and Mad doing battle on the Rift. And for me, the story that they're probably going to tell in this game is the story of the junglers. Alyolia's first split here in the LEC, he's been looking incredibly strong on this Mad lineup, along with Armut. The two new members I feel are just showcasing some strength and showing the flair that they bring to this roster. That being said, you look at the Fnatic side of things, they're not showing up how people expected them, as they've dropped some pretty embarrassing games in my opinion to teams people realistically predicted them to win. I know I certainly did, except for the Rogue game. Gone with predictions for Fnatic to win, and obviously they cost me one with their loss to the Misfits. Now, that's a huge thing to note, but do I think Fnatic will win this game against probably one of their closer rivals? No, I've gone with Mad here. I've just got that urge that Mad are gonna come on fire and just demolish the LEC here. And that's a big thing to say, considering Mad have looked a bit on the ropes in week 1. They weren't the hottest of teams, I would say, but they still managed to pick up wins, and wins in a good, solid fashion, whereas Fnatic looked very ropey. Nevertheless, that is the last prediction for this video, done and dusted. And there is one more thing I need to say here. LCS Lock-in. The Grand Finals is on Sunday. Expect the Twitter prediction. Last week, I put the quarterfinal matches predictions on Twitter. That's where you see my points for that. Obviously, I'm not keeping track of the results for the LCS Lock-in because it isn't the LCS, as I say, but I'm still predicting for it. And my prediction for the Lock-in Grand Final will be on Twitter Saturday night ahead of the big matchup. Nevertheless, that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed this part, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new if you want to, and I will see you guys for next week's predictions, where we may be starting with the actual LCS. See you guys